You could be in a toxic relationship and and not even know that it is toxic. Will not even believe if someone told you this was a toxic relationship, you need to get out. And
Yeah.
that is why it's always very difficult for people like this to get out of relationship, because they don't even believe that it's been so consistent and so permanent that it becomes a norm for them. This is what a relationship needs to look like.
Yeah.
They see a relationship that is not like theirs, and they are like, "Ooh, that is for them. This is what a relationship needs to look like." So yes, I agree. There are people in relationships who don't even realize, they don't even recognize. Even if you tell them that this relationship is toxic, will not even believe you because it's so normal to them.
So who gets basically asking if the bar for toxicity in relationships, well, specifically I think about relationships, romantic relationships, are really low, and it, it's come to attention. I'm just dealing with people around us and also people on social media that everyone seems to be coming out of a toxic relationship. It's so common. You ask someone why did they break up? Oh, I was in a toxic relationship, and it appears to be more common than we think. But another question that I don't think a lot of people are asking is the bar very low for toxicity in relationships? Everyone seems to have left one. Everyone seems to
No one.
characterize their previous relationship as toxic. So we're here to chat about that a little bit. And in all honesty, this is mostly from women. Oh, don't you just like a toxic relationship? Have the courage to leave a toxic relationship. Don't stay in a relationship when you're not happy. So those are all advice that you see on social media or even particularly ladies telling other ladies. So it seems to me, and I don't know if you have, that's an observation that you've made too, that this seems more common than it was in the past. What do you think?
I think as time passes, relationships get a little bit more complicated. Relationships are, I mean, we talked about romantic relationships. They are not as simple as they used to be. Just because, again, there's a certain societal expectations in a relationship, right? There's probably a list of things that people expect nowadays when they get into one. People want to be happy, of course. That's would probably be the most important piece. People want to be taken care of, both financially, emotionally, and otherwise. And once you start losing the joy that you get into a relationship, I think you need to start asking yourself why that is.
Hmm.
Um, in some instances, it might just be you falling out of love, which is typically is normal. People fall in love, they fall out of love. In other cases, it might be the nature of the relationship
Right.
uh, that generates that feeling of dissatisfaction, or that feeling of not being happy in that relationship. Again, like I said previously, I think relationships were a lot more simple. Nowadays, the expectations are a little different and creates opportunity for dissatisfaction,
Hmm.
um, or creates opportunities for toxicity, if you want to call it, creates opportunity for unhealthy relationships. That's what I think. But again, as time goes, relationships are not what they used to be. Different.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, just piggyback on what you're saying. I think you use two words interchangeably, which is what really this life is about. If I think you said dissatisfaction and toxicity. So really, we're here to delineate those two words. Do they mean the same thing? Do they actually mean different things? And if is if they do mean different things, is the bar for toxicity in relationship very low nowadays? It seems to me that people's tolerance to any sort of scuffle in a relationship is very low. If you have a little argument, or someone can just characterize that as a toxic relationship, and they're out of the relationship. So so we're here to like kind of separate those two words, dissatisfaction and toxicity. Do you find people use those two things interchangeably?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they do. But again, if you want to kind of break it down, take toxicity
Yeah,
for example. This is when um, they have you have an unhealthy dynamics
right,
in a relationship that might cause you dissatisfaction.
right,
So the difference is almost clear, even though we mix them up. There something in that relationship that causes you to be
right,
dissatisfied. So the nature of the relationship is is the problem, and then the dissatisfaction or the lack of joy now is the result of that problem. But again, most of the time we put both together. You might be in an unhappy relationship, it might not necessarily be toxic.
right.
So you need to kind of connect your feelings about the relationship to the nature of the relationship that you're having, right?
Mhm.
Um, Dissatisfaction might come from someone not being able to meet a certain request of yours. Nothing toxic in that. He just is not able, or she's just not able to meet it. Dissatisfaction may come as a result of a partner not meeting the sexual demands of the other person. Again, nothing toxic in that. So it has to be really clear.
Yeah,
Is your dissatisfaction as a result of something unhealthy,
yeah,
troublesome, right? Or is it just as a result of normal day to day people's abilities or inabilities to meet needs?
yeah.
I think that is where the difference is. One is the problem, the other is the result, cause and effect.
Right.
I think that's how I see those two words are used. But again, everybody will use them interchangeably, and
Yeah,
usually not. Mhm,
a lot of people use them interchangeably, and I'll say a lot of women use them interchangeably. A lot of them are not really satisfied in their relationship. All they think they can be better. So, as an excuse to get out of that relationship, they were like, "Oh, I was in a toxic relationship." I'm like, really? Your husband told you this dress, you cannot wear this dress out, and that toxic? Or your husband says, "We cannot afford an iPhone now, or a car, or whatever you have," and suddenly that becomes toxic. So for me, the bar for toxicity is really low, that people who say anything to get out of relationship and then blame it on toxicity. So it's weird. Before we go further, I would like to read a few things that are classified as toxic relationships,
mhm,
as toxic behaviors in relationship. And this is from Psych Central online. So one is gaslighting. So really that's like someone trying to tell you that the way you feel, they try to invalidate your feelings, or they try to make you feel like you're crazy for thinking a particular way, even when times where their behavior, or your thinking is a reflection of their behavior. They try to make you like you're crazy. Another one is humiliating. So humiliation is a toxic behavior that can come from like harsh criticism of people, sarcastic talks, and all whatnot. Isolation is when people tend to leave you alone because you're in a relationship but you feel like you're the only one in that relationship. That's an aspect of toxicity itself. Stonewalling, when people just shut down, you try to talk to them and they can't talk to you back. So um, all those are traits that I'm reading from this website of toxicity. So for me, I feel like these are really severe instances where you can classify a situation as toxic. But making requests from your partner, or having a simple male-female dynamic where you guys have some differences, opinions, and you're trying to hash things out, I bet you say that's not toxic. That's just two adults who disagree on a particular topic at a particular time of the day, and then they have to sit down and try to sort things out. But
mhm,
most people, if you go to the internet, they'll classify that as toxic relationship. And clearly, that's no way near gaslighting.
mhm,
It's no way near humiliating
mhm,
or even stonewalling. Those are just
Hmm.
two adults who are in a relationship, have a difference, and they're trying to sort it out. But it seems to me because you are probably fed up of that relationship, and you're just like, "Whoa, toxic! I'm out of here."
I think that people are selfish. That's what people generally are. And once in a while, you might gaslight. But I think the problem is becomes toxic when it is consistent, it's
Right.
persistent. A one-time selfish gaslighting act really
Yeah.
cannot be qualified as toxic. A one-time hey, you cannot put on this dress, or I don't like putting on this dress because it calls unnecessary attention. A one-time irregular, you can't see that as control. It has to be
Hmm.
consistent and persistent for it to be a problem. Because I think it's just in our nature for us to want to protect our interests. We are selfish beings, right? So once in a while you might say something or do something that is selfish with the intention to protect your interests and the interests of your relationship,
Right.
which might come across or might have the characteristics of being toxic, but which is just a one-off.
Yeah.
So I think we need to really clarify that even though we've listed all these
Right.
red flags,
Hmm.
right? It has to be consistent. It can't just be a one-time thing that somebody did yesterday and you say, "Oh, this is toxic." No, it has to happen consistently and persistently for it to be any issue.
Right.
I think that's a key thing about identifying a relationship that is toxic or dysfunctional.
And usually the people who are making these accusations, "Oh, I left a toxic relationship," they are usually not put in context. They never tell you what led to the toxicity. I mean, any sane person would not want to get into the relationship with someone who's toxic, say
Hmm.
someone who's narcissistic or someone who's straight line sociopath. First of all, those are it's a very minute population that's truly narcissistic. But if someone that you have met in the past, they are nice, you guys have gotten along, and then along the way, the person suddenly becomes toxic, it seems to reason that something has caused that toxicity, something has changed in the dynamic.
Hmm.
And whether you like it or not, it's a two-way street.
Mm.
One person cannot just automatically become toxic from a relation that was fine before, and then suddenly you have nothing to do with it. You know what I mean?
Again,
And
I agree, but again, I think it's the extent. Again, you talked about context, which is pretty important. Usually, everybody has a little role to play in an event or in something that happens. So it's determining what your role was and the extent to which the other person went with respect to what you did, right? Sometimes reactions could be exaggerated. that
right,
that is that is a problem. If my reaction is not proportionate to your reaction, or if my reaction is a lot more disproportionate to what you did, then we could start looking at that as an issue, right? But again, um before you say it's toxic, let's not just look at the one time thing that he did.
right.
It needs to have happened consistently. So for example, if 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 we have a conversation about money, finances, right? And I say I need $200 to go out with my friends, and you say, "Hey, man, this money we could use this money for something else, or we need this money to get the house rent or to do that."
Right.
Okay, some woman will say, "This guy is controlling," right?
Yeah.
But again, it's the context. Why is he not wanting you to go spend $200,000? It's because you have bigger needs.
Yeah.
There is
Right.
more need for the money somewhere else. That is one thing. If he says, "Oh, I don't even want you going out with your friends
Mm-hmm.
for no reason,"
For no reason. Yeah.
he doesn't want you going out with your friends. He doesn't want you visiting this. He doesn't want you visiting that. Then you can start taking the concept of control a little bit more seriously. Because again, what there's no need
Yeah.
to prevent me from seeing my friends or from seeing my family or from seeing, then it comes across as you attempting to control my associations, which is a really hard, it's a red flag for someone who is toxic
Mhm.
and someone who's trying to manage, micromanage, and control relationships. So again, like you said, context is important,
Indeed.
and consistency in the action too is important as well.
Mhm. Mhm. But it seems to me that normal people who normal relationships, I assume is the majority of us, um, they don't put demands for no reason. Um, Again, unless you're really a sociopath or very narcissistic and you can tell your partner that no, you're not going to see your friends for no reason. I don't think that happens in normal instances. Usually,
I
do you think
I
do you think it
disagree.
happens?
I think it happens. I think it happens a lot.
It does happen a
That is
lot.
why we hear it a lot. And again, I 100% agree that sometimes people exaggerate the nature of their relationship. They might say a relationship is toxic when really, indeed, it's not. But again, it doesn't diminish the fact that there are a lot of people who are in toxic relationships
Right.
and who are dealing with that, right? And the one thing I've noticed is that those who are able to easily leave a relationship and claim are toxic, if you really go detailedly and see what that relationship is, you might find elements of unhealthy relationships or characteristics of unhealthy relationships, but they might not be really, if you go, it might not be toxic at all.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
who are usually unable to leave a relationship are those who find themselves in really toxic situations because they have a hold on you, right? And
Right.
they make it very impossible for you to
So you
leave.
should leave. Right.
They don't even have the opportunity to say to anyone that this is how my relationship is because he or she is
Yeah.
not giving you
They
the
trust.
opportunity. You're trapped. They are not giving you the opportunity to meet anyone or to be able to say this to anyone. You've seen people who have gone with their girlfriends and wives to see their physicians or to go for because again they want to be there to make sure that you don't have an opportunity to tell anyone about what is going on in your life. You
Yeah.
can't see friends without them being present. They can't leave you for 1 second. They call you every 2 minutes when you're out of the house because they don't want to give you the opportunity to do that. I think there are a lot of people who are in relationships like
Mhm.
that and not even have the opportunity to say. The ones that we see on social media are people who just come out and they want to have something to say. They say it.
Yeah.
Those who are really in serious, difficult relationships
Right.
don't have the opportunity to do that.
If they don't, do they even have the mental capacity, the mental fortitude to even question if that's a toxic relationship, if they don't have to leave? Because you might be in something you think is normal,
Mhm.
but you really don't know that is toxic or not. Would you consider that toxic?
Because I don't recognize that it is toxic doesn't mean it's not. I think that's what we should understand. There are lots of people who are in situations don't even recognize the situations that are in, but it doesn't mean that they are not in that situation. You could be in a toxic relationship and and not even know that it is toxic. Will not even believe if someone told you this was a toxic relationship, you need to get out. And
Yeah.
that is why it's always very difficult for people like this to get out of relationship because they don't even believe that it's been so consistent and so permanent that it becomes a norm for them. This is what a relationship needs to look like.
Yeah.
They see a relationship that is not like theirs, and they are like, "Ooh, that is for them. This is what a relationship needs to look like." So yes, I agree. There are people in relationships who don't even realize, they don't even recognize. Even if you tell them that this relationship is toxic, will not even believe you because it's so normal to them.
So who gets to define that? That's where it's really
Who
tricky
gets to
for me. Who
define
gets
what's
to define
toxic?
that a relationship is toxic? Is it you who's looking for outside from outside, or the people who are in the relationship? Um, can you tell
Don't
someone their
we
relationship?
all don't we all know what a romantic relationship needs to look like?
We don't necessarily know. We've grown up. back in Africa where you have people beating up their wives, but they are still there. Um, we will clearly classify that as toxic, but they'll tell you they love their husbands, and some of them even enjoy all the beatings that they receive from their husband. It makes them feel like they have a strong man who's able to take over control and take charge of things. Is that toxic?
That is really tricky. That is hard. That situation is hard to answer because again, I know there are cultures, especially back home in Cameroon, where a man has to demonstrate his physical ability to protect the wife by showing it, right?
Right.
In those cultures, it's pretty normal. That is what relationship needs to look like. We can sit from outside and judge and say, no, this is
That's toxic.
terrible. You can't physically, you can't do that to a woman or you can't do that to a man. But again, we are outsiders looking in, and someone may say the culture they know better, right? But again, is it the right? We all know if it's right or wrong. Is it the right kind of? Is that
Uh,
how a man should demonstrate his ability to protect his wife and family?
no, yeah.
Right? But again, the thing is, you don't go again. Like I said, you can look from outside. You could criticize and judge and say whatever you have to say. But now you do not intervene. When you attempt to intervene in a relationship where both parties are happy with the situation, then you become the
You
enemy,
can't,
and you
the enemy.
cannot help. Right? You
You
cannot
can't
help.
stop it.
Exactly. You can't help. So, but again, you're right. In cultures like that, yes, who is to say if that
Who
relationship
is
is toxic?
relationship
When it is expected of you to do it,
right?
when the woman or the man is expecting you to behave in a certain way, how do you
Exactly.
how do you say that that relationship is toxic or
Yeah.
unhealthy?
Yeah. So have you noticed, and this is something that I've noticed myself, I'm just wondering if you paid attention. It is usually women who are accusing the men of being toxic. And this is relationship that they've already left. I can hardly see a man who accuses a woman of being toxic. Toxic, or he left a toxic relationship. Not to say that there are no women who are toxic, but usually the train is the other way around. Is that something
Uh,
you have noticed?
is it even in our nature as men to complain about something like that?
Yeah.
I think that's the big problem. Can you imagine sitting with your friends and telling them that your relationship was toxic? They look at you and laugh. They might not laugh at your face,
Yeah.
but once you leave, everybody is going to be laughing at what you just said. Because again, even though it's happening, even though it's normal,
Yeah.
but it's not something that we look and say, yeah, this is a problem. Take domestic violence for example. You only hear about men beating or
Beating
being
women.
physically violent with their wives. Hence the many shelters for women and shelters for women, and not really nothing, no resources for men who are physically abused.
Right?
It's not because it's not happening. It's because the men feel
Not
really they feel how do you tell your friends that your wife is beating you up?
and there's studies to say that anybody who is in a domestic violence relationship is usually both people who are hitting each other. The man is more damaging, but the man did not just start from somewhere and started hitting the woman. Usually they are both hitting each other, so they're both toxic to each other. It's just the man has more physical strength and can cause more damage to the woman. But I totally
Mhm.
agree with you. Women, just the way they are socialized, they have the propensity to be able to report more. They have the
Mhm.
propensity to be able to share their challenges with the world more. On the man, if you do that, you're considered weak. You're considered someone who
Mhm.
cannot have hold of his wife, who married someone he can't control. So that's usually a sign of weakness in men. Can you imagine? Like you said, imagine saying that to your guy friends.
Mhm.
We have a certain level of accountability that we hold all
On
men
us,
to that I don't
right?
think the same level that women do. A man will tell you, why did you let that happen?
Mhm.
Uh, Women, they'll be encouraged, oh, you go, girl, you have to leave that loser,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. So I think it's really different for men and women too.
And it's
So,
not, it's not something that we learned as we became adults. It's something that we grew up knowing. Like you had a fight with a girl and you're beaten, they start asking you how is that possible. I mean, even
yeah,
as a kid,
yeah,
even as a kid, even if the girl is 2 3 times older than you, Nobody expects any woman, even as a child, right? So you grow up knowing that you can't let people know that you were just, you know,
You're beaten by a girl.
beaten by a girl, right?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
grow with that. We grow with that, and it's hard for us to admit. I would never
On
admit.
top of that, you as a man, you are not supposed to hit back. Even if she
There's
hits
an
you,
expectation that, you know. So it's confusing.
you're
You
supposed
know,
to
she can't.
stand up and not hit her. So all these little things they begin to amount up, and then you have girls that grow up and they've never really faced accountability. So anything that comes to them as a sort of a challenge in any normal functional relationship that everybody has, every other normal person has, they consider it toxic. So you can see why, especially if you're pretty and as well as being your oyster, your parents have treated you like a princess, you marry a man who treats you like a queen, and no one has really ever challenged you in your life. If anybody brings anything that is contrary to what you think or you really want to do, you consider it toxic. You know,
Mhm.
um, so that's why I really think the bar for toxicity in relationship is really low,
It's low.
and it hurts men and women too. Because even the women who go through really toxic relationship, no one really believes that because everybody thinks that the leadiest thing is toxic in any relationship.
Well, because you're throwing everyone, every girl is throwing around the word toxicity, unhealthy, as a reason for leaving a relationship every minute of the day.
You
And then people start thinking like, why is this so rampant? Is it all men just terrible people
are women, yeah.
or not? You see what happened? This Johnny Depp thing and Amber, what they call her, right? Like,
Yeah,
can you imagine
yeah,
what this woman said about this man
yeah.
and really failed to
Everybody
hold
agrees.
herself accountable? She never at any point thought about the role that she played
Yeah, yeah,
in all this chaos, kept herself out of it and focused on what this man did.
yeah, yeah. Accountability is such a difficult thing to do.
Accountability is
So,
difficult. And then even this Me Too movement, where every
me too,
woman was accusing every man of something.
believe all women. Yeah,
At some point, you start like, how do you, what role did you play in this? What
exactly the point.
role did you play? So people then now stop taking this thing seriously, which now affects people who are in
Well,
really
suffering from it.
serious
Yeah,
problems.
yeah.
Because
But
when you come out and you say this is what is happening to me, we have to, you know, there's no benefit of the doubt. We have to be suspicious of why your motives for saying that,
exactly,
because everyone is.
everyone is. And also think of all the soccer players who have been accused by women, and these guys
Yes.
have had years of their career ruined,
Hmm.
only for the court to come and prove that these were false
Hmm.
accusations. And we just went along because you have to, of course, believe all women
Oh,
because
women, yeah.
women cannot lie. So it's just a terrible situation. And I feel like there's beginning to get some pushback
Hmm.
now that we have to believe facts. And we cannot just take your word for it because you're a woman. You have to prove that you were really in a toxic relationship. And
Hmm.
you don't just make accusations of. And I think people who do that and are proven wrong, they have to face some
They
consequences. Because
don't, unfortunately.
accusations, yeah, and they can lay out these accusations, and when the case is cleared by the court, you will hear nothing, nothing. This guy has lost years of his career. He's lost many endorsements. He probably won't sign for any big club.
Hmm.
I mean, we can also list like 4 or 5 players that this has happened to just in the last couple of years. It
Hmm.
is really sad. It is really sad. So I think one thing, but especially women, when they are done with the relationship, when they're tired, some of them already have boyfriends. You know, they just use the word toxicity to get out. You know, I'm not happy anymore. Oh, the relationship is toxic. Um,
Because I think the thing is, people feel like they have to give a reason to not want to be in a situation. If I'd fallen in love with you 1, 3, 4 years ago, and now I don't think that I love you, or now I think I love somebody better, end this thing and walk away and start the new relationship. You do not have to give anybody any reason for leaving.
yeah, the
There's
relationship
no
has.
point.
Yeah,
You don't have to give anybody a reason. You don't have to come to social media and talk about your previous. You don't have to do that. You just move on, get into your next relationship, and be the best that you think it is, right? But since everybody's trying to justify. I don't know whether it's like
Do
some.
you think it's attention seeking behavior? Because it seems like being a victim is a currency right now. Everybody wants to be the most victimized. And when you come to social media and you cry out your problems and you can't really articulate what the toxicity was in the relationship, you
Mhm.
just have to say it was toxic. That's all you have to
That's
say.
it.
And then
Hmm.
you become a victim, and everybody just seems to flock under your comment and tell you how you have the world's courage for living a toxic relationship that you cannot even define what traits were
What it
toxic in
was,
that.
yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
so we really we're living in sad times where people who play the victim get more attention than people who show strength.
Hmm.
It's really weird, you know. No one will come and congratulate a woman for trying to work things out if she has some toxic traits. She saw some toxic traits in her husband, but they are trying to work it out. But if you say you're leaving, oh, you are going to get flocked with comments congratulating you, like, "Oh, good job, girl. Leave that loser alone." Blah 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 blah. So it's really weird times that we're living in. You know.
And for me, I don't have a problem for you sitting and deciding that your relationship is toxic and moving on. If you're in a relationship and you're not able to get the joy and the happiness, please do leave. It's fine. You don't have to be stuck in something that you don't want to be in. Leave.
Mhm.
But the problem that I find is when you leave and then you come back and you make all these stories, or you make all these claims about a relationship that is not what you're trying to portray to be. I think
Yeah.
for me that is where the issue is. Because again, we are not saying don't leave a relationship. If it's not
Mm.
working for you, please be my
Yeah,
guest, man. Leave
by all means, right?
by
But
all means.
I think
Yes.
the social media attention is one thing that people really enjoy, especially women. They do enjoy the attention from the social media. I mean, you just need to go to the comment section of just an average girl who just posts a sexy photo, and you see how everyone is praising her. You know,
Hmm.
she has all. Or if you go to one of my favorites, all these plus size models, go and look at the praise that they get in the comment section. Even if you look at a girl who has worked hard at the gym to get the body that she desires, she doesn't get as much comment as plus size models who are just posting their fat bodies on the internet. It is so weird. Another aspect that I want us to discuss is happiness. Happiness serves to it's it's a good thing, but I feel like it's overrated in relationships. Or you have to be happy all the time. Unless you're happy in the relationship, the flip side is you're in a toxic relationship. And I don't know, when people talk about happiness, I don't know if they mean a feeling of elation or euphoria all the time, or they mean like you should be able to have a relationship where there's no pain, no distress, no discomfort. Um, but happy for me is a fleeting emotion that if you base the strength of your relationship on how happy you are, it's almost like you're setting up yourself for failure. Like, do you wake up every morning and you're, oh, I'm happy and I have to pay my mortgage? Or do you wake up every morning, oh, I'm happy and I have to put gas in my car? Those are things that you have to do as an adult, whether you are happy or not. If you're
Hmm.
in a committed relationship, you have to make it work, whether you are happy or not. I think this hyper focus on happiness, do what makes you happy. It's what's causing, it's what's brought the level of tolerance of toxicity so low that everybody, as soon as that happiness drops or it's away for a little moment, people feel like their relationship is doomed. And it's in a toxic relationship.
Happiness is not. And again, that's the unfortunate piece. Happiness is not a permanent, consistent a feeling that you get. I mean, if you feel happy all the time, I think there's definitely something wrong with you.
There's
I
nothing
think there's
wrong.
something wrong with you, right? If a relationship is perfect all the time, then there's
Then
something wrong with
there's something
that
wrong.
relationship. Definitely something wrong with that relationship. So I think happiness in general, for me, I'm looking at general big picture. Yes, generally I have to be happy. Doesn't mean that there are not periods or intervals during that extended period of happiness where there's dissatisfaction, where there's unhappiness, or where there is is a desire for a little bit more.
Mhm.
I think that these feelings are not permanent. They come and go. The feeling of happiness is there. The
Yeah.
feeling of sadness is there when the relationship requires
You
that.
know what makes life colorful? You cannot just
Eh,
walk life thinking that you are supposed to be happy all the time. That is such a sad way to live life. I mean, that's why people get on drugs because
they
they
want
want to have
that
that high of feeling
consistent
happy.
level of,
When
right?
you're done with weed, you have to get to the next level because you're already tolerant to weed. You have to go to a level because you want to maintain that consistent level of happiness. So I know it's also flooding the internet everywhere. You have to be happy. You have to be happy. Like, what do you really mean by happiness? First of all, we have to define that. Is
Hmm.
it you just feeling elation and great and happy and everything's perfect? Maybe. Do you feel that in your life? Yeah, just sometimes. But I bet you argue that it's few and far in between. It's not very common, that feeling of elation or whatever. But if you want a life where you do not have distress, like you do not have discomfort of maybe feeling the sadness of a loss of a loved one, or you're sick or whatever, I think in general, that's what people mean by happiness. It's not necessarily that momentary elevation that you really feel once in your life. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
we have, because the internet is so feminized, you have people who are using those momentary instances where you have that feeling of elation as the definition of a perfect relationship, or not even of a good relationship. And when you go below that, suddenly you're in a toxic relationship.
Yeah, I think that is a very that's a very wrong way of looking at what a relationship needs to be in terms of how you feel in that relationship. Again, like I said, you can't be consistently happy. I don't think there's anyone who is consistently happy with anything about their lives. Not their relationships, not their kids, even your kids.
Even your kids,
Sometimes you're not happy with them, right? You feel you're disappointed. Sometimes you're sad based on
your
whatever it
mom is
is that's
mad with
going
you
on.
too.
Your mom is mad with you, so they cannot be a situation where you're consistently happy. I think these moments of sadness, this low sometimes gives you perspective.
They do.
It helps you think. It helps you rebuild. It gives you a little bit of, and you need it
Yeah.
to be able to get back to that place where you're happy, and it
As
is
you appreciate
ongoing, up
happiness.
and down. I think that the word that most people should be using is being content,
Right.
because content now is a whole different. It encompasses a whole different. It's exactly what we're talking about. Where you're happy, you could be sad, you could feel a little bit of anxiety. You could have all those feelings, but uh, um, in a manner that is not impacting your general well-being or your ability to to function, right? I think that is what we're all looking for: content as opposed to happiness,
Hmm.
because happiness is, like you say, is fleeting. You can't
Yeah.
pin happiness down. You can't
You
get to
can't
a
do
place
that.
where you can be happy for the rest of it. No.
No.
But when you're content, yes, it's not the best, but
It,
I am making it work.
it
It's
gives
not
you
the best
it gives you
relationship.
stability.
It
Yeah. It gives
gives you a
you
little bit of stability, right?
stability. You have a duty to do what you're supposed to do, regardless of your emotions, whether you're
Hmm.
sad or not. You have to wake up and take care of your kids, whether you're sad or not. You still have to wake up and take care of your wife. You still have to pay your mortgage. You still have to go to work. When if you were to go to work only when you're happy, my goodness, how many of us are going
Nobody
to
would
be
work, man.
right?
Nobody would work.
It is such a I find it's such terrible advice. Just be happy. Just be happy.
Mm.
That advice encourages very bad behaviors in people because you would do anything to be happy just so that you can maintain that dopamine high, so that people can look at you as in a perfect relationship. It's really sad. I think people should change that advice of just be happy. So how do you think we should move past this? Should we should we just make the world a tougher place? Like I think the world has become so soft that people will. I don't know. It's so sad that at the least discomfort, everyone is willing to just throw the bucket. Like I'm done. Meanwhile, life is supposed to be hard, particularly for men. Life is supposed to be hard. Life is supposed to be stressful. Life is supposed to make you strong as a man. You cannot live your life without any discomfort. That doesn't give you any challenge. It doesn't build any character.
Hmm.
You know, it's sad that the need for you to be happy all the time. It's what's out there, and people are trying to push that, even in young kids. Oh, just be happy. I mean, you're not kids anymore. You have responsibility as an adult. You happiness is not your goal.
Hmm.
You know, happiness happen to you. Sure, it can. The birth of a child is a happy moment. Graduation, it's a happy
Hmm.
moment. You buy a car, buy a house. Those are happy
Hmm.
moments. But then you have to pay the bills. Those are not fun, but you have
Hmm.
to do what you have to do. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
was, I was, I was talking to my son the other day, and he said he was sad, and I'm like, man, it's okay to be sad
it is
because I think
okay.
it's something wrong with his iPad. He couldn't access it, so he was sad about it. I'm like, man, it's fine to be sad. It's okay.
It prepares
You know,
you for life.
it's okay to be sad.
Yeah,
You know, it's okay to cry. If you feel like, you're in a place where you need to cry, please go ahead and do that. I'm not going to stop you. I'm just going to tell you that crying is good. You know,
yeah,
so all these emotions, it's okay to feel all these emotions. It's okay to be
yeah.
sad. It's okay to be happy.
You're not in a toxic relationship.
No, it, I mean, if if your definition of a toxic relationship is when any relationship that you have a little moment of dissatisfaction, then I guess everybody is in a toxic
Yeah,
relationship because
yeah,
even my relationship isn't perfect.
no, no. Because you have
It's not.
imperfect people who are coming together. How do you expect to be perfect? Brothers and sisters, siblings have fight among each other. Then imagine you take two
Hmm.
people with different upbringings and bring them together. Okay, we'll begin to round up. But I want to ask, we talk more on women, but for men, how do you feel like men perceive, or how do men view toxicity in relationship? Like, what do you think a man will say this is toxic? I have one. If a man doesn't receive respect from a wife, I mean, like you said, on a consistent level, it's important to put that
Hmm.
consistent level. It's important to put context there too.
Hmm.
You can't do something bad and then you have disrespect from your wife and then you call that toxic. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
I think respect is one. If your wife is very disrespectful to you, that can certainly mean toxic. Do
Hmm.
you have any other ideas of what men can find as toxic in women?
So I think there are a couple of things that you could look at um, to really say whether or not your relationship is toxic, even for men, right? If you get to a place where you start having certain feelings, so take a low self-esteem, for example, where you start feeling less than a man. Yeah, you need to really where your girlfriend or your wife or whoever makes you feel less than who you are as a man. Then
Yeah.
yes, you definitely need to start thinking about what kind of relationship you're in. If they consistently give, you know put you in a place where you feel ashamed of yourself,
Mm.
they could do that a lot, like I said, consistently,
Yeah.
because once in a while they would make you feel ashamed of whatever you've done. But if it's consistent, where everything you do is not good enough, and your friends are doing better, or dad is doing better, or he is doing better, and you're feeling less than who you are, you're feeling shame in not being able to meet needs or to do things like that, yes, there might be toxicity in that. If just having a sense of dependency, they give this a little bit more for women, where you get a feeling like you can't do anything without him,
Yeah.
like your world would end if he wasn't
Mhm.
there. If you start having feelings like that, like serious feelings about not being able to, or not feeling like you could survive without this individual in question,
Right.
then yes, there's definitely something wrong. But again, for men, precisely like you said, when you start feeling less than who you are, or you start feeling ashamed of who you are as a man, as a result of a relationship,
What
yeah,
what
you
is it?
definitely need to
What is it
consider.
men do if you find themselves in a toxic relationship?
Again, don't men don't men don't easily quit.
Right. It's I think
That
it's hard. We are white high. We are hardwired. White high. we are hardwired to be able to push through struggles and
Hmm.
try to make it work. I think more so than women, if you ask me. I
Hmm.
might be biased because I'm a guy, but I think most men are hardwired to be able to force things to work than women. I think more men have a higher tolerance of BS from women than the other way around.
Hmm.
If you ask me. Um,
So it's
um,
if men leave a relationship, the excuse will not be because it was always toxic. No,
yeah,
it
yeah,
would be it would be a lot more than just the fact that the relationship is toxic. There has to be a lot more
a
for a
lot.
man to walk away from a relationship. I mean, you would expect you would expect them to walk away
Right.
as soon as they realize that that is what the relationship is. It's not in our nature as men to just
Choose.
walk away. We don't do that. We don't walk away from anything without putting a fight. We would definitely have to put on a fight before before we walk away, right? But again, it boils down to this.
I think
Could you imagine calling your dad and saying you're leaving this marriage because your wife is the relationship is toxic, or because you
imagine the
can't do that?
scolding again. You're scolding again. You will get more sympathy from women than you get from men. Honestly
Hmm.
speaking. Um,
Hmm.
your dad or your peers are just gonna look at you like a loser. It's sad because as a man, you're not supposed to quit. You're not even supposed to complain about your feelings. You
Hmm.
know, yeah. So I think men should. It's not for men. And all those people who think that if you just socialize men enough, they will come to social media and start crying about toxicity
No,
like women. Then I'm like, you don't know the difference between man and woman because we
we
have
don't.
different ways of processing stress, of different ways of reacting to stressors and stuff like that. So it's really different. Um,
Men don't go out looking for that kind of sympathy.
we don't. Yeah,
Cheap.
the
It's
other thing
cheap.
that we look for sympathy from, not that.
Not that. Not that.
Definitely not get the praise that the women get. No,
No.
you're gonna get it. You know,
I,
just look at it.
I,
Yeah. If you go and you're a man and you're overweight and you go and put body positive, that's why the body positive movement doesn't exist for men.
yeah, there is
Because
for men. No.
they're going to hold you accountable. You cannot say
None of these movements would apply to
it,
any man.
it,
No, the Me Too movement. You bring it up, and women, people will look at you and think you're crazy.
you're crazy.
Hmm.
Because as a man, you're not supposed to hold two conflicting thoughts in your head. You're supposed to be consistent in your thinking. Only women have the luxury of holding
Multiple,
two
multiple.
logically different thoughts that are opposed to each other in the head. A woman will call a model beautiful, and then you go and call a plus size model beautiful. Those two cannot be the same. They cannot be true at the same time. You know. Um, so it's just
It's
weird.
it's
Some
it's
privileges
it's
are only
true to them.
accorded to women.
I, I
But
think I think the logical question here to ask is, can you reasonably fix a toxic relationship? Can it be saved? Can it be fixed?
yeah, I think it can. If both people are willing to work at their toxic traits, particularly if you as a guy is able to identify clearly the way your woman is behaving and you are able to stand up to her and tell her this is how you're behaving. I don't like that. If he respects you enough, I think most women who are invested in the relationship
Hmm.
will try to change. Sometimes this toxicity it's out of ignorance. People don't really know. But I think most women who are over the relationship, which is, by the way, most women who want to leave a relationship and who eventually call it toxic, let's just face it, they are done with the relationship
Hmm.
and they're just finding a way out. Um, I don't think there's any way out there. Nothing is unsalvageable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's you definitely, in principle, really, in principle, yes, it can be fixed. In principle, and just like you said, both parties have to be willing and ready to acknowledge their role that they've played in
Yeah.
creating that toxicity, right?
Usually
And
not one person, usually both
it
people.
can be, it cannot be one-sided. It cannot, you can't fix a problem that is affecting two people. One person can't fix a problem that affects both parties, right? So yeah, they have to both be willing to acknowledge their role that they play in creating that unhealthy relationship. Um, Again, you know, build trust, which is not an easy thing to do.
No.
Build trust, no. Nurturing mutual respect.
Yeah, yeah, all those are good
All
recommendations. Yeah,
those, you know. And then therapy, that's your best piece. Therapy, counseling, seek professional help
yeah,
if you think your relationship is that important.
yeah.
Then maybe have someone come in and help you to figure things out.
Okay then. Yeah.
Yeah.
I, I don't think we have
Oh,
any
then
comments.
or you walk away. Well, let's
Or
not
you want
forget.
to?
Walk away, but don't come on
Yeah,
social media and tell us that you walked away because it was
yeah,
toxic. Just walk away and take care of yourself and move on to something better. Don't
yeah.
don't come to social media and tell us
We all have our
nonsense.
own
All this
problems,
stuff.
and we're dealing with our own
Uh,
problems.
Come on, I'm not there talking about my
Right.
problems, man.
No comments. No, nothing. So I think we're running up. If people have any
Yeah.
comments, you can always come back and respond to comments that are made afterwards.
Mhm.
So we're going to try to be doing this every Sunday. When time permits, we can do a weekly show, and we can also join other podcasts. We have a lot of friends who are doing this as well, so we can hop in there and share opinions. Do you have anything else?
Uh, no, just thanking everyone for those who have watched, who were part of the show on and off, and then of course those who are going to watch this later and please leave comments. I think so that we can have a little bit more detail, more of this conversation outside the live.
Maybe we're just crazy and we don't know it yet.
Maybe we are right, and we don't know it yet. And again, just for those who are not following us on Facebook, please like. Um, and follow us on Facebook. We are also in on
Right.
YouTube. That's what you say on YouTube, right? So Idle Park Talk Show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. So I think when we are done here, eventually we get this moved onto YouTube
YouTube.
if that's where you feel comfortable watching.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you heard that. Thank you very much. And happy Thanksgiving.